Well, Margarita, it is such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. I've been looking forward to chatting with you and letting all of my listeners be able to hear your story. And I already kind of prepped them that we have a little bit of a relationship that we've had going here through some coaching, but I really am excited for you to be able to share your story. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Rhonda, it is my absolute pleasure to be here. And I've been so excited to be invited and to be able to share my story with your listeners and colleagues.
Well, we are going to now pretend that they're all not here and it's just you and me having a conversation. And we've talked about some of this before, but I really do want you to share so tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and then how you started getting into the world of functional medicine.
So, I'm Margarita. I'm a GP, have been a frontline practicing GP for more than 10 years now. I'm based in the southern part of the UK on the Isle of Wight. I've studied medicine in 3-4 different universities, not just I've done my postgrad here, but I've studied, I'm originally from Bulgaria. I've done a bit in France, a bit in Japan, and I really always wanted to be a doctor, and I'm very passionate about medicine. After practicing as a GP, which was really my choice of specialty, after 10 years, I started feeling a little bit of heaviness inside here, that I was not able to get to the bottom of the problems of a lot of my patients.
Right.
And when I became a patient myself, when I started experiencing some gastrointestinal symptoms and was offered a pill long-term without an actual explanation what's wrong with me, I was on a quest of finding. I mean, I'm not dedicated to more than 20 years of my life to medicine to just not have an answer. And that's how I started learning and looking for answers, and came across functional medicine. And I absolutely loved it. I thought, my goodness, this is the pathway I've been looking for. And I then chose functional medicine university, and that's how I met you much before you met me.
Yeah.
Your lectures there.
And so when you started then with at FMU, Functional Medicine University, and for those of you that are listening, I will put the link to that in the show notes, so that if you want to learn more about that level of training, then you'll have access to that. So that's what Margarita's talking about. But when you got in there, what was the topic or the thing that you were the most drawn to in functional world? Like, what's your passion? What do you love doing?
So my passion is, and that's, my passion is women's health. So really, that's a comfort area for me, because I've done a lot of women's health in a conventional practice, but also because my entry to functional medicine was gut health, and I was personally invested. I used a lot of the testing and a lot of the supplements first on myself. I found that there's a lot of patients out there, and a wider scope of patients with gastrointestinal problems that I could help with what I've gone through. So I would say those are my two areas that I'm focusing on, and my niche.
But you and I talked about this not long ago, and that is that if you're going to choose a niche, which I always recommend, that you can choose a niche that is like women, menopausal women or women with reproductive hormone issues, but everybody has a digestive issue. I think everyone. And so if you're going to ever choose a niche, but you got to be good at your niche, but you clearly are, because that, to your point, was your point of entry into functional medicine. So I love that you, when we first started talking, you really were kind of focusing in on women. And I think that's just sort of started to evolve as you've, done this whole, dive into this functional world. So you currently have a full-time practice. Yes.
Yes, I do 3 long days in family medicine. I'm a partner. We've got 3 dispensaries in my business, so I'm involved with managing quite a significant business, not just with family as a family practice, but our dispensing as well. And then I do 2 clinical days in functional medicine, of which, as you know, you've advised me, and I do so. I dedicate time for practice development and business management. So I would say at the moment, my clinical day is really one day a week in my functional practice.
So one day a week that you're really working with the patients, and then the other day you're really working on your business, like doing all
Right.
the things to grow the business. So at this point, functional medicine work is a little bit of a side hustle for you. Yes.
Definitely.
I mean, you're working on it one day a week with patients, and then one day a week you're working on it really just as the owner of the business and trying to move the practice and grow it. And then the other days that you're working in your GP practice,
Yeah.
seeing patients under that model. So does that ever feel like a conflict for you?
Oh yes, it feels like a conflict, because in my NHS practice, my family practice, I can see so many patients that I can help, but I'm squeezed for time, as you know. But also I'm unable to progress. I mean, I do a lot of functional medicine in my NHS practice, and the results have been outstanding. I mean, the results
Aww.
with patients are, I always tell you that the impact is, I think my practice is growing patients, my staff, they're seeing that I'm offering something different, something more holistic, a lot of nutritional advice, a lot of lifestyle advice, and the results are really, are really great. So that encourages me that I can help more people. And outside the NHS, we could do more testing, as you know, and just give patients the time they need. And I really enjoy this very much.
And you can't, to your point, you really can't do that inside a regular normal type practice, because you do, in order to make the numbers and in order to be profitable in the business, you just have to keep moving patients through. You don't have time to spend 30 minutes with a patient. You'd go broke doing that. So that's just not the right model, but having this functional medicine model is such a great way to do that. So what's one of the first things, and we talked about this a little bit off camera, but what is one of the very first things that when you decided that you were going to do your functional practice, what was the one thing that you would say that you've done that has allowed you to scale and scale quickly in your functional practice, rather than you just, going in and doing the grind?
Yes. So at the end of the last year, 2021, and the beginning of 22, I took few hours to just go back and review all of my discovery calls, the patients, but also the milestone in developing the practice. And, I realized that the two things that have really accelerated me the most, and as I said, I put a lot of work in developing the practice and trying to do it methodically.
Yeah.
But the two things that have been absolutely pivotal for me have been having coaching, because it's a sounding board and clinically, but also challenges you all the time to develop. And the second absolutely accelerating thing has been having a virtual assistant. Having my Chloe, who has been an absolute star.
And Chloe, I love it.
Yes, yes.
So how did you find her? Tell me about that process, because that's really what I want to kind of really hone in on, because I've loved watching your journey as from the point of like even considering it. I mean, I remember when you and I talked about it and I said, you may want to hire a virtual assistant. And I think you probably just got a little bit of panic in your throat, like, what? So start off and kind of tell that whole story. Like, how did you come to finally be okay and realize that you may need a virtual assistant? What was the fear or the, a little bit of angst or anxiety you had about that? And then walk us through that whole process of finding your Chloe.
So, yeah, definitely. You're right, Rhonda. I had a big hold back for having a virtual assistant. I mean, I'm used to hiring people, and, in my practice, we've got a big team, almost 25 people, and previous jobs I've done, I'm used to that. But it's always been conventional, where people invited to an interview and you speak to them and then trial them in your business. And the thought of having a virtual assistant and holding them accountable, that was one of my biggest fear. Mm-hmm. How do I make sure that they do what I want them to do? And also, how do I find out, how do I make sure that I give them enough work? So these were my two biggest fears. Yeah. So I remember when me and you spoke about it, I went away thinking, my goodness, I can't do that. I'm worried if I employ them and they're somewhere else, how will I manage these two areas? And I'll tell you what was a turning point is when you said to me, sit down and write the things you don't want to do, because the things you hate doing, somebody else will love doing them. And that's how you know they're the right person. Yep. So that's what I did. One evening, I just sat in bed and I was writing the things I hate, like managing my emails. That is an absolute, that drains me, having so many different emails and trying to follow them. And when the patients start having queries and booking the appointments and the onboarding. So that was one thing, but then making sure that the whole process of, that is taken into consideration, needs to be taken in consideration for onboarding. So I made that list, and then I sat down and write a very simple job description with all the things I don't want to do and want somebody else to do for me.
I love it.
Yeah. And then what was also helpful is you introduced me to Upwork. And I never used the platform like that. And then I was really impressed when you did a short video for me, just 5-10 minutes video of how to do it. And I watched it and I thought, oh yeah, that's not a rocket science. I could give this a try. Even if it fails, I could give it a try.
And you found your quality. So what happened when you put your job out there? What happened? This is the best part of the story. I love this part.
So this is what the next step was. I put the job description, and then I started getting excited because people started emailing me. Oh, I'm interested in your job. Your clinic looks really nice. And so then I started panic. I have too many good candidates. How I'm going to choose?
Now I got another problem.
I have another problem now. People are interested and I'm supposed to interview them and decide over a Zoom call. So then I asked you, what do you think? I've got 2 or 3 good candidates over here. How do I select? I mean, I use my GP skills because I'm with people all day long, like most of you, with patients all the time. So we have that human connection type that we tend to rely on a lot. But I think when it comes to finding somebody who is good at completely different kind of things than you don't rely on that.
And it's virtual. And you you don't have them in person to be able to kind of feel body language, and you're just dealing with an email and maybe a photograph, and a little one at that. Like it's much different when you're hiring online.
Yes. So you then said to me, gave me an idea to come up with an assessment for them. Okay, so give them a little assessment. So I actually had gone out to an interview first, conventionally thinking. I did the interview and I said to you, I've got 3 girls who are really good. One of them is very pleasant, very confident. Another one who responded well, but I didn't connect with her so much. And then another one who is a bit overly confident and, maybe not on the same page like me. And then you said, give them an assessment. And you know what? That was an absolute game changer, because I designed the assessment with 3 tasks and then send it off. And I said, I really loved your interview, but would you mind doing this simple assessment for me? And then I was very surprised. The one that I was going to hire didn't even bother to reply to me.
Oh, did that just get you?
Or send me an email a few days later to say my child is being poorly and I'm sorry, I will get back to you. Well, the one that was quite quieter woman, a bit more confident, but quieter, and I wouldn't most likely have been based on that. I maybe would have
drawn to her.
Exactly, drawn to her. But her assessment arrived the following day. So she sent me an email to say, thank you for the assessment. I'll get back to you by tomorrow. And then the following day, there was a result of the assessment. I'd asked her to put a PowerPoint presentation and customize it with the logo of my business. And I was so impressed. I thought, wow, this is excellent work. And then I hired her, and it's a history since then. It's all started then. And if you ask me what was the main turning point after that, was the fact that I did, like you said, I prepared for the onboarding for her. Yeah. So I did a series of videos. I created a folder in saying VA folder. I introduced her to my systems that I'm working with. I introduced her to the expectations to my website. I did a small recording on what's the ethos of my business. And also, as a part of her assessment, I sent her my unique positioning statement, because I wanted to see how she reacts to it, and asked her to customize it. So I knew that she would be introduced to the to my business and to the idea of the business.
Right.
So since then, I have been working very much into introducing her to my business as a collaborator rather than a receptionist, for example, or somebody who is just a face.
Yep. So she's really become kind of a partner with you as you're growing the business. So how many hours did you hire her for to start? What did you think the work was going to be that you were going to give her? Because we had this conversation and you were like, I don't know if I'm going to have, like, what is she going to do? I said, well, first of all the things you hate. But so what did you hire her for first? How many hours a week?
So that was another of my concerns, another of my anxieties before me even putting the advert is how many hours will I be able to keep her busy and get some effect, get some, and then you advise me. So I decided I start little, 5 hours a week, I thought, and very flexible working. So I think that was one thing that was attractive to her, to a VA in particular. And she tells me that being flexible and saying you can check the work, check the emails in between. I don't want you on a set hours.
You're right.
That really works for her, but works very well for me, because at the moment when my patient inquires for discovery call, she manages it. I don't need to use an automation because she will ring them immediately or she will email them. So it's all done. So she is available all the time, but she's really flexible how she works.
That's so good. Now, how many hours does she work now?
So I've just done an appraisal for her, and I've increased her hours. But also, I mean, that's another thing that I did. When she started, I somehow didn't think that calling her a virtual assistant necessarily would be the right thing when it comes with patients. So I said, well, shall we create a little signature for you? So you are patient coordinator, which is much more of a responsible role, because now she takes ownership and she says, well, I am the front face of the clinic, so to speak. So, and now we're talking about her because I've been so impressed with her work when it comes to creating content. So she manages the weekly email. She manages my social media, which was something we not agreed when I hired her. So really her role has expanded a lot. And I've said to her, we have targets of numbers of patients. And as the work progresses, I will be increasing her hours and hopefully her pay. So that makes her invested into us having more patients.
Yep. And I mean, the transformation for you as far as really building your practice as a bit of a, as I mentioned, it's like a side hustle. That's a term we use here, just as it's this thing you do on the side. And there's so many practitioners, at least in the US, that have, they have a full-time, let's say a chiropractic practice, or they may be in a type of a medical practice or conventional medicine practice or acupuncture. And they think, I really want to add in this functional component, but I don't quite know how to do that. And this is how you do it, is you leverage that by hiring someone to come in and do all the things you don't want to do, which lets you then be free to do the things that you love to do. And just recently you put together a group cleanse.
Yes.
And Chloe was instrumental in executing that cleanse. And you said to me just a couple of weeks ago that you were quite happy because you were seeing the financial rewards. You saw successes in your patients. Like, they're the people that participated with you in the cleanse. And it was all such a good experience. And you could never have done that without her help.
Absolutely. Never. So all the things like even creating policies and terms and conditions, communicating with patients, colleagues for our colleagues out there, all the things we really don't like doing. I mean, and I asked her at the interview, how do you feel about those things, emails? And she said to me, she leaned forward and she said, I love this. And I thought, you're my person. You're my person. Love it. I hate it. You love it. Perfect match.
Oh, she's perfect because she loves doing all the things that you are like, oh, just whack me over the head. I can't even handle it. That's so, so, so good. I love that. So now that she is an integral part of your practice, you also have done something that's really remarkable in that I love that you've done this, and you've really gone out and done some networking outside your practice with other practitioners in the community. So how did that whole thing start? Were you, because where you are, and you can explain further, but functional medicine is not a thing. It's a thing here in the US, but it's not a thing where you are. So no one really knows exactly what this whole term really means or what it encompasses. So when you started to go out and network, you're networking with people that don't have a clue what you're talking about. So
Yes.
how did that start? And what have you done and how have you developed that networking with other people in your community?
So I think I understood earlier on is when I had that idea that I want to develop a practice in the business. I think the other fact about me is that I'm passionate about medicine as a clinician, but I've had an entrepreneurial side to me. And
Yeah.
2-3 years ago, I went to a London Business School and I really studied, a bit like doing any other studies. And I wanted to develop it methodically. So I understood earlier on, even when I was preparing to open up the business, that educating my patients is absolute key and should be key of my marketing, because I can't sell a product or a service without actually getting people to understand what's the value behind it. Because you are absolutely right, Rhonda. People do not know what functional medicine here is. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many American and Canadian patients are booking discovery calls who are on the island here with me. And I'm always surprised because they know what is it.
Yeah.
But the British patients don't know that. So a big part of my marketing campaign is to really raise the profile of what functional medicine is, root cause medicine is, and then holistic medicine. But I always say it's another angle of me practicing my conventional science in a much more broader way.
Right.
So the networking, another thing I've discovered in the last year is that a lot of my referrals come from colleagues, chiropractors and osteopaths. And then me and you have discussed that it is so important that I capture the more low-hanging fruit locally. Yes. And get to those colleagues who are already struggling with those patients, because the patients have been in the conventional practices and there are no answers.
Right.
So it's a breath of fresh air for them, and it's wonderful for me. So some of the networking has been that way, and I'm just about to put an educational event locally here for the chiropractors and osteopaths where we could network face to face and share knowledge.
And it's so refreshing to hear that, because we over here in the US, everybody knows what it is. So, and I think I explained this to you. We talked about this a week or so ago. And that is, if I said to a chiropractor, I'm getting a get together for a functional medicine and I'm going to create an event, I would maybe have one person show up, because they either will say, I already know what that is. Why do I need to go? Or they might say, I know what that is and I'm not interested. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. So I love that you have such a ripe opportunity. You've kind of found your niche, not only the people that you want to serve, but you also are in a niche, in that bigger niche of that functional medicine. So you're going to get to really create the movement, so to speak, in the island where you are, as also in your local area where people don't really know what it is that you do. And I absolutely love it. You are by far one of my most favorite people to talk to, because I love your accent, number one. It makes me very happy. And I love all the little words that you say that we don't say. They make me smile. But I have loved the way that you just, without question, have just taken on and said, yep, I'm going to go do that. And you do that instead of making excuses or saying, well, I didn't have time, or, growth happens because we're willing to put our feet to the fire and hold ourselves accountable for what needs to be done. So when I said, it's maybe time to consider a virtual assistant, instead of listening to that panic feeling, you said, okay, I'm going to make a list of all the things I don't want to do. You took action, and now your practice is really growing. Like, your practice is growing. So I have a few random questions I'm going to ask you in a minute, but I want the listeners to know where they can find you. Where can they learn more about you?
Thank you for this opportunity to promote my work. So my website is lambtonclinic.com, and also I'm on Instagram, just starting. So first steps, a bit like you say in your other podcasts about social media, is not something I'm used to. So for the colleagues out there who are starting, it is so much work to establish a practice and do marketing. It's not what we used to. So I feel really passionate about that whole idea of creating a movement and working with other fellow clinicians of different backgrounds And here in the UK, that is really pertinent because we have got a very rigid medical model.
Yeah.
So I think we need that refreshing outside of the NHS, but working with our colleagues. So I would really, really welcome any of your colleagues or that want to come get in touch with me. I'm always keen, you know, that me and you always sneak some cases and we talk about clinical medicine.
Always,
so,
always. Yeah. We
and,
can't help ourselves because it's what we do. So, okay. I have 3 questions for you. You ready? You've not heard these before. I did not give these to you, but 3 questions. Don't be nervous. Okay. Question number 1, what is your favorite vegetable?
Okay. So my favorite vegetable is tomato. If you count this one as a vegetable.
Tomato.
Or is it a fruit? Tomato.
Fruit or a vegetable. Okay. Tomato. What is your favorite junk food?
I really was thinking after the cleanse today, I was thinking, oh, what am I fancying? So I'm just about to finish the cleanse actually. And it's a fig roll biscuit.
Fig roll biscuit. Describe it. I don't know what a fig roll biscuit is.
It has a dry fig inside, but actually I don't know how much of it is dry fig and how much of it is made to feel like a dried fig. And then it's a biscuit on the outside.
Oh, so it's like a treat.
It's like a treat.
A sweet treat. Yeah, very sweet treat. Okay. And then the last question, which is not overly very exciting, but I always love to know, what is your favorite season of the year and why?
I love the summer, even though I love skiing and I love the winter when there is snow as well. But the summer is hot. We are more free. I love the beach. I'm very lucky where I live, even though we're in the UK, we're surrounded. I'm on an island. So there's some wonderful beaches. And I recently, that's an interesting fact about me, is very popular in the UK, cold swimming throughout the year, Rhonda. And I'm a cold swimmer. I know, it's madness, but there's a lot of evidence that it's great for the immune system.
Oh, hey, listen, it could be good for everything, but I'm not doing it.
It's really cold. At the moment it's around 4 degrees, the water, 4 or 5 degrees. Is absolutely freezing. Now I'm not doing it at the moment. I stopped in the middle of November, but yeah, I love the sea. I love the summer.
Wow. That is an amazing fact. I did not know that about you. Cold swimmer. Me and the water. I think this is the thing. We were meant to be in the water. We would be fish and have gills. But because we do not have gills, I believe we're supposed to stay on the land because there are things in the water that want to eat you. So why would we go get in the water? That's my take on that. So cold swimming, I'm out. No.
No. So
yeah, I tell you what, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much. LanternClinic.com is your website. And can we find you on social under the same Lantern Clinic?
Yes, Lantern Clinic, and on Facebook the same.
Got it. That's a wonderful marketing tip, by the way. You always want to have all your branding the same so that everybody can find you every place. And you only have to say it one time. Lantern Clinic. That's it. So Margarita, thank you so much for staying, and it's late for you later in the evening. And I really, really appreciate that we're willing to share your story, especially about your VA, because I know it's a place where our clinicians here in the US can have so much leverage by hiring a VA to do the things they don't want to do. And it might even be the things that their staff, even if they have a staff person, that staff can't do. But VAs can be just a huge game changer. So I'm so glad you told your story. And it's been my pleasure to get to know you and to continue to work with you. I absolutely love it. So thank you so much.
Oh, Rhonda, it's my pleasure. I just wanted to say that I've loved having a VA so much that I'm planning to have one in my NHS practice. Ooh. I'm already working towards it. And I think I could lead the way with this, because that could make our life in conventional practice.
There you go. Easier. There you go.
Thank you.
It's all about making a life that works for us. And when we can find the people that can help us live those lives, it helps them do what they love, just like your Chloe. But it helps you have the ease of being able to see patients, serve patients, whether it's in your NHS practice or in your functional medicine practice, either way. But I love that. You go, girl. You're going to be the VA queen before long.
Oh, it's lovely. Thank you, Rhonda, so much for inviting me and supporting me on my journey. And that has been amazing for me to have that support and to be a part of your community too. Thank you.
Well, I love it. And thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.